Hi everyone, this is Miss Ward and Davy here to do your Concept 4 notes for the Plate Tectonics unit. Alright, so we've discussed this in the past, in Concept 1 as well as in class, a lot before Concept 1, but we're going to revisit the lithosphere and the asthenosphere because we're going to be talking about tectonic plates tonight, so it becomes rather important. So, once again, the Earth's crust and the rigid upper part of the mantle form what we call the lithosphere, and that lithosphere is broken into tectonic plates. The asthenosphere is a layer of plasticky rock that is just below the lithosphere. When we say plastic, it's not actually made of plastic. It's just similar in texture of like a soft sort of plastic. If you melt plastic or asphalt, that's what it's like. It flows like putty, so it's very thick, very viscous. Viscous means, thick and material. So we also need to talk about the difference between oceanic crust and continental crust. When you all made your foldables, you noticed that they separated these two. They had one listed as oceanic, the other one as continental. And we discussed this briefly in your first set of notes, that the oceanic crust is much thinner than the continental crust. So we're going to revisit a couple of those points. So the oceanic crust is dense, and it's made up of rock that is rich in iron and magnesium. So it's much thicker, essentially, than, not thicker as in distance, but the density, so it's much more compact. That's the word I'm looking for. It's much more compact. The continental crust has a low density, so it's much looser in soil, and is made of rock rich in silica. Silica is a very light element. Tectonic plates can include both kinds of crust, or just individual crust. We can have a tectonic plate that's made of just oceanic, of just continental, or you can have a tectonic plate that does include both. So what are these tectonic plates the lithosphere is broken up into? Well, first of all, there are 15 of them that the scientists have identified. And some boundaries are bordered by mountains and other features, but they're not always. So a mountain range does not always mean that it has to be where a tectonic plate is at. There's not always a mountain range on every tectonic plate. Some are located within continents that are far away from mountains. So to identify these plate boundaries, I can't talk tonight, scientists primarily study them using earthquakes. Earthquakes are a huge help in studying tectonic plates because they produce those seismic waves that we discussed. And those seismic waves are what we use to study to see how things go through, how the materials change. And these earthquakes themselves are the result of sudden shifts along tectonic plates. So when these tectonic plates are moving is when we get earthquakes in the first place. Earthquakes are caused by tectonic plate shifts. Frequent earthquakes are evidence that two or more plates may meet in that area. Okay, so that's why in California they have a lot of earthquakes because they lie right on a fault line. The San Andreas Fault runs right through California, and they get earthquakes all the time. That's why they have to build all of their buildings specific to sustain earthquakes. St. Louis area is actually also on a plate boundary where if we had an earthquake, it would rock this area, and it would be a huge devastation. Volcanoes are another feature that can help identify plate boundaries. So there are certain volcanoes, such as the Ring of Fire, which is in the Pacific, that form when plate movements generate magma eruptions. So when plates move, they're not always pulling apart or shifting next to each other. They can sometimes be coming together, and sometimes that means they're going to have magma erupting from that area. Generally, in areas where you have volcanoes, because of plate movements, you also have highly active earthquake zones, just like we do in the Ring of Fire in the Pacific. Alright, that is it for your notes for tonight. Make sure you go on, you do your whisk. If you haven't done the ones from the nights before, go on and do those as well. Tomorrow I'll be checking these, you'll be taking your quiz, and we will be talking about it in class. So have a great night.